Okay, moving on. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I wasn't tripping. I didn't think that I really, made the claim that, I was well read on Gnosticism in its own texts or Hermeticism or anything, or well read on it at all, really. More so, like the thing is, I haven't read it, but from what I've heard of it, it's interesting, right? It's interesting, but I don't think it's all, you know. It's not comprehensive. So I'm going. So you said that I've heard that the Hermetic concept of the demiurge is different. I don't know the details. I know the Gnostic demiurge thing is kind of what is it? Yeah, it's kind of negative, pessimistic. It's like, oh, the demiurge made everything, and he's the full god, and we have to sort of, find some way out of here and sort of defy the game dev and get out of the game. And that's sort of the point of it. And Sophia is I don't know. I don't exactly remember the mythology, but Sophia has something to do with the way out. Anyways, so, okay, the demiurge is a lion with a snake's body. Okay, that's really interesting. The reason that's really interesting is because in astrology there's north and south node, right? And in Jyotish astrology and Hindu astrology, there is Rahu and Ketu. Rahu is north node and Ketu is south node. So north node is it's Rahu, it's the demon's head. So during one of the creation stories, the churning of the ocean of milk, Krishna's first, or Vishnu's, depending on your perspective, his first avatar, or one of his first avatars rather, cut off the head of Swambanu, and the head expanded into a planet, and that is now Rahu. Now, Rahu is called Simhika Garb. Simhika Garb means son of Simhika. Simhika means she-lion. So Simhika is kind of like the Hindu analog to Sekhmet. I'm pretty convinced they're supposed to be the same. And she's basically a demon queen that's, yes, a black lioness. And Rahu, so then it would follow Rahu would also be a lion. So there, boom, sounds a lot like Rahu. Furthermore, Rahu's powers are the occult, that which is hidden, and to cast a spell of delusion. So if I measure this against sort of the colloquial, my colloquial knowledge of Gnosticism, then it's like, okay, well, of course I never felt that it was correct that the demiurge actually created reality. I think that's nonsense. That God would deputize something evil to create existence. That doesn't make any sense to me. So even if it's just a small slice of his existence, so God's not, big enough to police all of his existence, or for some reason he just lets a part of it stuff, okay, that's just my thought process about Gnosticism and why. But I think Gnosticism is really cool and is a really good seed of something to ask questions, because there is something wrong in the world, right? There is, the more you chase your desires, the more they run away. The more you try and build up your ego, the more reality will try and tear you down. There's sort of this push and pull of material energy, and just, life will be good sometimes, and then you feel like it's just only to trick you into falling again, I think everyone knows that there's something going on in life. There's something that is causing all this trouble that makes life so full of angst. Now, if we look at it in terms of Rahu, Rahu, he's casting a spell of delusion over the world. He's an asteroid, or kind of like a demon, but it's a little more complicated than that. And yeah, he's a vicious lion that he devours the sun, causing eclipses, all these things. But at the same time, he is a representation of Durga. He's a representation of the material energy. But see, he's different than Durga. He's sort of a magnification of Durga. The more I talk about that, I feel like to me, there's no question in my mind that Hinduism already had this figured out. You know what I mean? And for me, I just, okay, it's not like they probably knew about this stuff, or maybe they did, but I don't see the value for me, I don't see the value for myself to read up on these things when it's already talked about in Hinduism. So in that way, I feel very comfortable with Gnosticism. But, also I understand the Hermetic view of the Demiurge is different. There is a good side of Rahu as well. If you understand the material existence, Rahu is a great friend. Rahu is, very helpful and everything else. Rahu can turn all your wildest dreams into reality in the snap of a finger. But the difference is, if you can master the material energy, Rahu will be your ally. If you are a fool, Rahu will take you for a ride. And that's how Rahu is. That's his thing. That's his dough. That's his, Dharma practically. I think it's pretty metal, to be honest, but I have a relatively good relationship with Rahu in my occult practice, so I feel quite comfortable. Yeah. And you can skip this one. I'm just going to give an example of how comprehensive Hinduism really is. Like a few weeks ago, I did a post about Lucifer and Ahriman and sort of the proposed cosmology of evil by Rudolf Steiner. Actually, the post wasn't about them. I just sort of tangentially mentioned them in a post about something else. And someone kind of pulled that thread in the comments and said, oh no, that's nonsense, that's just, Rudolf Steiner just made that shit up, most likely. And I don't think that's true. I think that Rudolf Steiner shows us a true window into the Rosicrucian worldview, which is quite bizarre. And it's proposed that Ahriman is this materialist evil, and that Lucifer is kind of this ethereal, up in the air evil. So they're sort of opposites that balance each other out. Now, that's funny because in Hinduism, if I look through Hinduism, I don't have to really consider it that much because it's just right there. I don't have to wonder if it's true or something. The basis is already there in Hinduism because Lucifer is Shukradeva in Hinduism and practically completely fills the description given to us by Rudolf Steiner. So, he's the controller of the planet Venus, or the ruler rather. His color is white. The correspondence to the planet Venus it's corresponding to the color white in Jyotish. Also, Venus and Shukradeva are connected to sort of a more intellectual spirituality compared to Jupiter's more big T truth sort of spirituality, kind of. It's also more of a sunny, bright, warm spirituality instead. So it's like that. very Luciferian. It fits the sort of Luciferian archetype of like actual Luciferianism pretty much perfectly. And then if we look at Ahriman also pretty much sounds just like Rahu. Especially the way that Steiner describes it. The only thing is the picture of Rahu that Steiner has isn't very leonine, but whatever. But yeah, if you go on to Jyotish astrologers and listen to them talk about Rahu, they're very likely to mention materialism and material gain. It's his wheelhouse. So, that's why I really am enamored with Hinduism. I'm just blown away by it because practically any other tradition I might come across, I already have some familiarity with it. I don't think. Well, I'll continue this in the next one, actually. I don't think Hinduism is the final thing. I don't think it's the last word on everything. I think, there's sort of a history is written by the victors type thing there. Maybe the gods are demons or something. I don't know. False gods, as it were. I'm about to talk to someone else about that here in a bit. Still, I will tend to filter everything through Hinduism because it's one of the oldest things we have. The Rig Veda is one of the oldest things that we have, and the other Vedas, but the Puranas are also really old, and yeah, I think it's a good picture of the cosmic order and everything else. It's, like I said, very complete. The Mahabharata, even, which is an epic, it's not the Puranas, will go on for periods, like whole chapters about the shape of the earth and, all these other things. It's totally comprehensive. Practically any kind of literature you would ever want to find, you'll find in the corpus of Hinduism. Vedas, Puranas, Tantric scriptures, Shastras, Ayurvedic texts, all that sort of thing. So I guess that's what I'm trying to say is I'm very situated and interested in Hinduism. And that's sort of my intellectual basis of it. And, I'm not holding my breath to go blow for blow intellectually with some Hindus because a lot of them probably won't know this sort of thing either. So even in Hinduism, my view of it is quite idiosyncratic. I learned from the Hare Krishna books, translated by Srila Prabhupada, and he explains a ton of things in the purports. I've also read the Shiva Sutras, and I've also, the Bhagavad Gita. I go through bits of the Mahabharata that I'm interested in. I mean, there's a ton. I read a bit of Bhagavata Purana. I'm on the 3rd canto right now. Haven't picked it up in a while, but it's a ton of reading. So, that's kind of my background. And so to, sort of parlay on details of Gnosticism and Hermeticism, I really view myself in the group as adding something from sort of outside. I think that's really positive because, as it is now, a lot of people just sort of kick around the same few ideas, and when someone brings up something weird or funky, they get vilified. And it's not just me. I'm quite strange. I'm quite a strange case, but people seem to love me for it typically. I don't know. Internet's such a chaotic thing, but yeah. So that's sort of my outlook on the whole thing. The other thing is, before Hinduism, I was really big into the Bible, and I read the Bible a lot. I've read it cover to cover. I don't know every secret. There's parts I glazed over, that sort of thing. But there's some key parts of the Bible I know pretty well. So I mean, to say that the Bible's like it's full of secrets. It's very multi-layered. So but I know a thing or two about it. So when I guess I'm trying to say that when I kind of kicked back at Shane, that's why, because it's like the joke the atheists tell. What book what book can most easily make someone an atheist, and it's the Bible. And that was me. I became more like agnostic, but because I read the Bible and I deeply understood what it means. And I don't think this is mysterious. You do have some familiarity with this sort of thing. Maybe you think that I backslid on it or something, but no, I just I prayed the prayer, God give me wisdom. Pray to God for wisdom, for He gives freely. And in a few years, I started my journey out of Christianity, and it felt very much. It felt like a natural outgrowth of that prayer, even though it was years later that I actually got out of it. But I realized shortly after that prayer that something was up. There's something we weren't getting. But I don't know exactly what your stance on Christianity is, but I did want to make mention of that. I think I'll say that for another one. I also want to mention, as far as Western esotericism in general, I'm not that, I haven't been that big on Kabbalah. I've gotten into it more lately, but in general, I've done practices of different Hindu things. I've done a sadhana. Well, I've done 2 penances, really. There are different types of penances. I've done all kinds of stuff. I did want to mention as well, I asked if you did astral projection because I wanted to say all that's my intellectual street cred, as it were, because I felt like maybe you wanted to know. I think the street cred that I actually sort of prize more than that is the practice. I astral project and I talk to beings and I do rituals and it has an effect, and I have enemies and I do things to deter them magically, and all sorts of things, and or manifesting wealth. It's slow going because I'm really focused on, as it were, theurgy. But through theurgy, I'm purifying. I'm doing something. I don't want to nail it down exactly verbally or nail it down too much. But through more of this mystical theurgic process, I am evolving in such a way that sort of this hermetic, in the sense of hermit, this ascetic kind of stasis that I've been in is I think no longer really necessary. And in fact, I felt very squeezed by spirit guides and things of that nature to put out content like this for a long time. In fact, this particular topic that I wrote about, I felt squeezed. I feel now like like I'm lighter because I had this on my chest. That's something led me to speak it out into the universe. Also, it's been on my mind. It's good to talk about things on your mind. I think very healthy. Anyways, yeah. So I even go a little bit new age. Like I do channeling. I do tarot. I do astrology, Jyotish astrology. I do all sorts of things. Tantra. I do some quasi-tantra things, like, simple stuff that I can manage in my current situation. But, I do those sorts of things, and I do I do some form of, I won't tell you that, actually. But, I do a bunch of shit, I do God work, deity work, rather, So, to me, through gnosis, right, through communicating with spirits and whatnot, it takes time to purify this process, to purify inhibition, to purify the process of channeling, to test the spirits, because I have a bone to pick with people that have sort of the approved theology, but as it were, but I don't have a bone that much to pick with the Bible itself. I think the Bible is what it is, and I think people try and make it into this or that, but it's a book of wisdom. There's plenty of wise things in it that you can use to accelerate your life. You just sort of have to know how to know it, and you can't know until you know. So that's kind of shitty, but such as it is, it is as it is. Well, so yeah, that's yeah, I guess that's kind of an overview. I don't want to, what's the term, belabor the point of my practice if you're the sort of person that doesn't believe in spirits and all kinds of supernatural things. But to me, I do, and I've had a lot of supernatural experiences, and I've been able to sympathetically affect my reality. I take these things very seriously, and I prize that experience higher than something I would simply read in a book. And then, if I'm led to read a book, then it's actually important because it's part of the experience. You hear what I'm trying to say? Are you like? What a wretched gathering. If that's not something that you take seriously, then I think we don't have a lot to say to each other. I respect like I said before, I respect the fact that you're a skull and everything else, but I'm very focused on the practice, on the journey. More than that, I would even go so far as to say, which I'll make this another message. Yeah, I would even go so far to say that you are a learned person, and in the Puranas, like India has the caste system, but now it's not the way it used to be. It used to be that you can even look at it astrologically. It's maybe not a completely foolproof thing, but basically the element of your moon sign would tell you your Varna. They don't do that anymore. Now it's just complete nepotism. But
is your bidding, master.
Yeah, I'm in the mode of doing like a kshatriya. Like, I protect the space, I do things, I'm in broad dress a little bit. I'm a little bit in between of kshatriya and brahmana, learned man. I have some of that Brahmanic intelligence, but I think there's a little bit of a thing where when it comes to people that are full-on brahmanas, full-on learned men, scholars such as you, some Brahmanic intelligence isn't that, right? And so that's pretty weird sound, just a minute. So that's a part. That's like what's on my mind now. So in that sense, I think, I would love to learn from you in that way. Like I said, my main teacher. I'll say this: my main teachers, my main guru, are gurus. My main gurus are spirits. This is called Peter Guru. It's like ghosts or spirits. Not exactly ghosts. It's typically going to be, something pretty strong out there in the ether. Some deity or something. I do that thing. So that's my main source of guidance. And but I have friends now at this point that are more in the wheelhouse of knowing, being well read. So yeah, I'm happy to have met you and have you as someone that is actually a resource that I can confer with, and maybe you'll see my posts and give me some really good feedback. I have friends like that now. I would say most of my friends are more shamanic than Brahmanic, or they're they're that spiritual ladder within themselves as a Brahmana is, but it's more in a shamanic way of like hearing the spirits, feeling the vibrations rather than pure scholarship, although a lot of the people kind of do both, which is pretty good. But yeah, so yeah. Anyways, so just I guess tell me how you want to continue this conversation. I'm not really sure because, like I said, my wheelhouse isn't Hermeticism and Gnosticism as the texts are. I'm sure they say a lot of cool stuff. I don't feel super attracted to read them. The next thing on my list is Enochian. Eventually I want to get to Neoplatonism. One of my friends is bugging me to read the Book of Enoch, the first one. I want to read the Shiva Sutras again. Also, the same friend that wanted me to read the Book of Enoch wants me to read the Keys of the Hidden Keys of Enoch by J.J. Hertak. Sounds really interesting, actually. So I think, but like, I'm pretty busy, so whenever I find time. Also, the Patanjali Sutras, if they can boost me in astral projection and stuff like that, that would be sweet. So the Hermetic and Gnostic texts are in quite a backseat in comparison. Also, the Urantia papers. I'm interested in the Urantia papers, but I'm hoping that my one friend will just tell me about it. I could read for myself, but there's so much stuff to read. There has to be some picking and choosing, right?